So Perth has now entered the growth phase of its growth cycle, and this is likely to last around about another 4 years. With that in mind, buying off the plan is an excellent strategy. This is because you don't actually need to own the property to benefit from the value of that particular property. To buy off the plan, you just need to put down a deposit, that's all. This deposit gets put into a trust account on your behalf until the deposit is required for settlement. So that goes towards your purchase costs on settlement. In most cases, but depending on the development, the deposit holds the price of the apartment. So this strategy would not make sense, let me make that clear, if in that contract there was ways of still moving the price if you put the deposit down. So the deposit needs to be holding that apartment and that price until completion, until you settle on it. So you need to be benefiting from the purchase of the product, from the property, because you're making a large gain on settlement. Okay, so when you actually pay the deposit versus what you settle on, you want there to be some significant difference in the value of the property there. So let's have a look at how this might work. Let's say you purchase an $839,000 two-bed brand new apartment off the plan in the Olive Street development in Subiaco that we've had, and I've done a video on that one. The deposit might be as much as 10% on a lot for an off the plan development, but here you can get in for just 5%. So those deposit amounts really depend on the development and what the financial structure is behind that development. Okay, so that can vary, but in this particular instance, it's 5%. So we can get in on 5% of the purchase price. So in this example, 839,000, we'd be looking 5% is a $42,000 deposit to hold the property and the price. Okay. So the key here is leverage. You're leveraging that amount of money to control a property of much greater value. We also get some stamp duty benefits as well, which are significant, and I'll talk to you about that side of the equation a little bit later in the video. So as I mentioned, you don't actually need to be owning the property to benefit from it. So the point of this video is to make you understand that you can use a moving market without ownership of that particular property. A lot of people get quite confused about this, but make no mistake about it, and particularly investors, because they're looking for a return, etc., from cash flows. But whether you're an investor, owner-occupier, you can benefit in the market. Even if you're an owner-occupier, and I've said this before, you still want your property to go up in value. So it doesn't matter if you're an investor, owner-occupier, first home buyer, whatever it is, you want to use the market to your advantage. So let's just assume that the market goes up 10% between now and around about August next year, which is when we'll be looking to have people settle on this particular development. So that's when it will be ready for people to actually purchase it and start to move in. So over 12 months, that would mean that the value of the property has grown by about $84,000, okay, by the time that you settle on it. So you've essentially bought at a discount. The deposit that you put into the trust account as well can also be earning interest. At the moment, that might be around 5%, just depending on where the bank is that the deposit is put into, but it would be around about that amount. So you're getting interest on that deposit amount that you put down, as well as the growth, leveraging off the full value of the property, not the 42,000 you put in, but the full value of the property, which was 839,000. So bear in mind, last 12 months, we grew at around about 24% here in Perth. So 10% is a relatively, in the market that we're in and where we are in the growth cycle, it's a pretty conservative kind of a number, I think, going through the next 12 months. The growth part of the cycle that I'm talking about now started about 2 years ago. And during that time, we're seeing quite a few people that have purchased 2 to 3 years ago make significant gains on settlement, because the market started moving into its growth cycle, and we've already seen people do significant amounts of gain from the settlement price that they've, or the value I should say, that they've settled on versus the price that they held from putting a deposit down. So they've done quite well out of that over a period of time. And going forward, we should expect the market to just heat up more and more, because it tends to snowball. So it tends to people tend to get more fearful of missing out, and therefore people start to pay higher and higher prices. So as the growth cycle moves up, we tend to see people push the prices more and more. The keys here are, one, to ensure that the deposit holds the price. Two, that you're at the beginning of a growth cycle as we are here in Perth. Three, that the development is post-construction, so it's already started to build, preferably the first floor or beyond. And this is mainly because pre-construction developments, when you're doing pre-construction and they haven't gone to site, sometimes they can let you out of the contract, because by the time they actually go through and go back to the financier and say, hey, we've got X amount of contracts, which appeases the financier, it might be 60% or so, and they go back to the financier, then they say, yes, go ahead with the development. They get the pricing for it, and it's higher than what they were expecting, and therefore they have to let the people go out of the pre-sales contracts. They let them walk away with their deposit, or they say, look, you need to be paying more. So in that pre-sales area, there's more uncertainty, more unknowns. So it can be better in this scenario to be in the actual construction phase. And the reason for that is because you could be sitting on a pre-sales for a year or so, and it's waste if you don't go ahead with it, or you have to pay more because of the build cost, then it means that you've kind of wasted a year or so potentially of the growth cycle where you don't end up with anything. So you want to know what those numbers are and be able to go in directly once the development has already begun. And like I said, normally at least site works or around about the first floor stage. So the stamp duty benefits that I mentioned, there's two main stamp duty benefits that you can have, and they are based on pre-construction and during construction. So two different amounts, and these apply to everyone. Okay, so there's foreign investors, first homeowners, owner occupiers, whoever it is. This applies to everyone. Okay, so the two stamp duty benefits that we get are during pre-construction, an apartment building that hasn't begun building as yet, you get 100% saving on the stamp duty up to $650,000. And then they complicate it a little bit between $650,000 and $750,000 with both of these benefits. So between that amount, $650,000 and $750,000, it's a sliding scale from 100% back to 50% benefit, and then over $750,000, it's a 50% saving on your stamp duty. With the during construction stamp duty saving, so once they've actually started the construction of the development, you get 75% off your stamp duty bill for a purchase up to $650,000. Again, it's a sliding scale up to $750,000, which reduces down to 37.5%. So in that range, $650,000 to $750,000, it slides back from 75% saving to 37.5% saving. And then over $750,000, it's a flat 37.5%. Okay, so these benefits apply to everyone, as I mentioned. It doesn't matter. It's not aiming particularly at anyone specifically. It's more pushing the development itself. So the benefit isn't around the purchase so much. It's there to support the developer, which is why it's open to everyone. We have some developments that you could leverage into. One of them is a pre-sales, which I mentioned. Of course, the benefit of that is from the pre-sales point of view. I did talk about it being a slight negative there, but also it does give you more time to leverage into the market. So that's the kind of risk profile that you want to weigh up there. But the developments that we've got at the moment that would work well for that are Modell and Como, which is 12 months away from completion, and that's during construction. So you'd have the during construction stamp duty benefit. Olive Street and Subiaco, which is about 14 months away from completion. That's also during construction. And then the Chapel Hill development in Como, which is 2 years away from completion. So plenty of time to leverage into that one. As I just mentioned, that's the pre-construction. So that would be the pre-construction stamp duty benefits. So if you get the points that I've brought out here right, then leveraging in the market as it's growing for an off-the-plan purchase can be a really strong way of settling on a property that you benefit from the market without fully owning it and without fully having to put all the money into the property to actually get the benefit from it. So if we look at, say for example, that the first example I gave you of purchasing a property at $839,000, if it goes up 10%, that's $83,000 that you've made. If you think that you've put the if you think about it this way, that you put the $42,000 into the trust account to hold the property, that $42,000 has made $80,000 because the 10% growth was on the full value of the property. So you've made 200% on that 42 grand that you put in as a holding deposit. And that's a fairly conservative, as I mentioned before, number on the market going forward over the next 12 months. So that's the video. If you're thinking about buying off the plan, I hope that you do your research. You need any help, get in contact with me. I'll see how I can help you out. Whether you're an investor, first home buyer, owner-occupier, downsizer, whatever it is, this strategy can work very well at the right time in the market. Okay, hope to see you in the next video.